We've dropped only 100 meters or so down into the valley, but you can already see that the valley itself is closing off into this gorge with granitic walls. I'm going to do a quick pan around first to my right, and then slowly back to my left. And as I pan back to my right, I want you to think a bit about what you see that's different on either side. All right, well, maybe you've had a moment to think. I'm going to walk closer to the rock over here. You can probably already notice that this side of the hill is much lower gradient. It's a much lower slope than the other side. You might also notice a bit of jolting because I'm focusing on what I'm looking at instead of my feet. Down here, we have this pitting in the rock. And I'm just going to put my hand inside as a bit of a scale. Oop, shadow. Well, tried that. Go from this side so you can have a bit of a scale. And you can see all of these pits and how they're also kind of connecting on the way down. As fluids, let's say rainwater, enter this rock, they leach minerals, right? Rainwater evaporates, so it's distilled. And it's coming down without any minerals in it. Therefore, it's able to move through the granites and pick up mineral matter, for example, from the feldspars. That then opens up gaps from mineral grain to mineral grain, gradually disaggregating the rock and allowing the other minerals and the rest of the feldspars as well to break free. What the water also does, so in addition to the chemical reactions from the water also flows over these rocks. I'm going to climb up here and show you a little bit about this combined action. So first off, we can see these disaggregated pieces of material here, and there we are. We have some micas, and I see some quartz, some bits of feldspar, all in this piece. And these little tiny gravels will eventually break down into single mineral grained sands, and eventually, primarily the quartz will survive transport. We call these weathering pits namas, G-N-A-M-M-A, and they're forming here kind of between these old fractures. So you can see now the fractures that we were measuring before becoming wider through dissolution and transport. So following that dissolution, the water is able to then carry material down slope. I'm going to pan up first so you can see all of this, what we call grus, which is this broken down kind of pea gravel material that's coming from above, from the weathering. And that stops in this flat surface. And then through here, we have additional weathering. And as we start to integrate these little namas, these small pits, into flow paths, the water doesn't just cause leaching and chemical erosion. It also physically, or chemical weathering rather, it also physically erodes that material. So the chemical weathering, perhaps aided by some physical weathering from the sun, is breaking down this rock. You might be able to see these orange surfaces up above. These are the weathering rinds. As this material breaks down, it then becomes loose and is carried physically, so physically eroded and transported away from the site, down these tracks, and down onto this little slope, providing a bit of material that these bushes are growing into. So we have this whole side that's to my right, but on river left. So on the left side as the river flows. Looking back upstream, let's check out this other wall. This has some rounded edges, but is much more vertical and horizontal fractures. And so what we can see is that here we probably have more recent fluvial erosion exposing this surface. And this surface then, through these fractures, still has this fluid moving and is rounding the corners where there's the best possibility for waters to get to the rock. And so this was probably weathered a bit underground and then exposed by the river. I'm going to back up and pan the camera here, so now we're looking downstream, and so you can see we're kind of on this part of the bend here where we have this, kind of more gradually sloping face. And then as we look upstream, we have this outside part of the bend where we have the erosion. And this gradually sloping face continues around the bend, as well as the steep part, until we kind of come back around to this other side of the bend, where downstream you can see where the river becomes steeper. We have more steep rock on the left-hand side of the river. So what we see from here is that this river is probably meandering gently. It's probably eroding in a direction towards river right, looking upstream again, as it is incising. And as a result, it's keeping these nice, in-place, gradually eroding sections of granite that are weathering away. And then on the other side, there's some weathering and a lot of physical erosion. We're now going to go a little farther downstream.